Yeah, right, it's just gone 8 minutes after 7 now. Air New Zealand is warning travellers to be prepared for delays and disruption for the holidays. The airline is gearing up to fly 2.8 million passengers this summer. The CEO of Air New Zealand, Greg Foran, is with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Great to have you here in the studio. We've been doing a bit of plane spotting this morning out at the airport, which has been fun.
Fantastic.
A lot of planes to spot next week in particular, right? The 23rd of December is the busiest day for Auckland Airport. 55,000 passengers in one day. Is that more than pre-COVID at this point? Are we there yet?
Yeah, look, pretty much we are. We're going to be certainly up 80% on where we were a year ago. Domestically, we're actually ahead of where we were pre-COVID, and internationally, we're running about 70% of pre-COVID. So it's coming back hot and strong.
Is that surprising? Because I think we anticipated that as internationals picked up, Kiwis would be going over there and we would see domestic reduce. That hasn't happened.
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say that we are seeing more demand than we thought, and that's a good thing in many ways for the business. It does, mean that we're having to move pretty quickly to get as many planes back up and running as we can, but certainly it's come back, as I said, pretty hot and strong.
Okay, so here are some crucial questions for people at home who have booked tickets on Air New Zealand for this holiday period. Do you have enough planes and staff and capacity to meet the demand for people who have already purchased tickets, or do you know now actually some services won't make it?
Yeah, no, we do have enough, and you might recall several months ago we took some action to make sure that we could match demand with supply, because we know how important it is for customers to be able to get to where they need to for Christmas. So we took 1.5% of our capacity out. We in fact went and leased a plane from Spain, and that's operating between Auckland, Perth, Auckland, and we've been flat out employing as many staff as we can. We've brought back 2,200 of our staff, and we also have 300 of our corporate staff who have been trained up to help out there. So, providing we don't get any, activity which is unforeseen,
like
we're
sickness,
going to be able to get everyone. Well, we're coping with that at the moment,
okay,
Ryan, and the team are doing a fantastic job.
Okay, so it's not like you're at capacity right now, and if anyone falls sick, we've got planes coming down, having to stay on the ground. You've actually allowed for sickness and other things, and that will happen over the Christmas period.
It's not quite exactly as clear-cut as that. We do put in place standby to be able to cope with situations, but every now and then it is fair to say that we will get an extra day where we just can't cope and we may have to take a service out. What we do then is that we get everyone accommodated on the next service that we can. We're feeling pretty good about how things are looking now, between now and actually the new year.
So what's your standby ratio usually, and what is it this Christmas?
Yeah, we've moved it from sort of 20% of all crew, and this is an average, it varies across fleet types, closer to 25% in order to cope with that. And of course in domestic we're actually flying slightly more than what we were, so it's actually more on standby.
Okay. What should people do when it comes to getting to the airport on time? I know in Queenstown they're saying be there 3 hours before an international flight over this period, and then an hour for domestic travel. What's your advice to people who are booked on Air New Zealand flights?
Yeah, I think that's it exactly, Ryan. Give yourself a little bit more time. So if you're domestic, I know that we say 30 minutes, but let's get there an hour beforehand, and particularly if you're looking at taking a pet or you've got some oversized baggage, give yourself a bit of time. Bear in mind that, we've brought a lot of staff back, but we've also got lots of new staff, so they're quickly learning the ropes. A little bit more time domestic, and then for international, same thing. So maybe instead of 2 hours, give yourself an extra bit of time and get there 3 hours.
Do you have a target for this holiday season for flights leaving and departing on time?
Yeah, we have a target actually all the time for leaving on time and arriving on time, and that's sort of circa around 80%. And over the last few days, we've actually been able to achieve that. If we get, a particularly difficult weather day, and it was pretty tough over the weekend, and I was out and around the network in the weekend, then that can get disrupted. Or if we have, some unforeseen engineering issues, that can also play into it.
Sure thing. Do you think people need to get travel insurance? I saw you made a comment about this the other day. Would you advise people who don't normally bother about travel insurance, even on a domestic flight, to this season be getting it?
Look, I think that's a decision that people should make themselves in terms of what they see as the sort of risk scenarios they see it. I don't think all that many people do get it. I would say that the majority, by far and away, of our flights do leave and arrive on time. You know, I was out on the network yesterday. I was down at Napier and Hastings and got around the airports in both locations. We were running pretty well yesterday.
All right, very good. Let's finish on the bags, because this has been a big issue of contention. So since August, you have bags reported missing has gone from to 4 out of 1,000. Normally, pre-COVID, I think it was 2 out of 1,000.
Yeah.
Where are all the bags going?
Well, as you can imagine, it's a network within an airline, and particularly if you're, say, flying from London, you might be on a Singapore flight or a United flight, some other carrier. Those bags have got to get loaded on at Heathrow. Maybe you're then going to LA. They've got to get off that plane, get onto our plane in LA. So lots of areas where these things can go wrong.
So it's not your guys losing the bags, it's someone else?
I would say that our guys are generally doing a very good job. We've seen a slight increase, and, you know, I take my hat off to them. As I said, from 2 to 4. But I know when I look at the data, for example, across other airlines, that's actually a pretty good result. So I'm very proud of what they've done.
Right, okay. So, but the 2 to 4 you're saying is not an increase because of your guys, it's an increase because of everyone else?
No, sometimes we will be under pressure as well. So, you know, we're not immune to all the things that many businesses are facing at the moment, which is, you know, we're having to scramble to get as many people as we can, train new people. But I would say that when I look at the stats, Ryan, the job that Air New Zealanders are doing across the network, I'm so proud of them. They're really doing a fantastic job.
Well, that's good. Hey, just before we go, there's been an announcement this morning, I understand, about zero-emission flying, zero-emission planes. Is this right, that you're hoping to have here within a few years?
Yeah, exciting, isn't it? So, you know, this is an important thing. We know, you know, the role that carbon emissions plays, global warming, and here we are in Air New Zealand saying by 2026, we would expect to have some commercial demonstrators. In other words, at least sort of 3 planes that we are trialling across the network. Customers are flying on. You can buy a ticket on. Could be electric. Could be, a hydrogen electric, green hydrogen electric. Could be a hybrid plane. And we've said, look, there's 4 people that we're working with very closely now. By 2026, either one of them, or it could be a combination of all of them, we would expect to have some planes out there on the network that you're going to be able to fly on.
Wow. And what do these things cost?
Still negotiating through that, but as you would expect, anything that's new is probably going to be a little bit more expensive.
Like a Tesla 10 years ago.
Could be.
So do you, once we get them, and if you book a flight on them, will they be much cheaper because you're not paying for avgas?
Well, we'll have to see as we play that out. As I said, these are early, you know, it's still pretty early. Some of these planes have just completed their test flights. Now they've got to be tested more. Let's see how that goes, but we'll be very cognizant of what the total cost is, you know, the total cost of ownership.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming in this morning. Great to see you as always. That is Air New Zealand CEO Greg Foran with us, just gone 17 minutes after 7 o'clock. You're watching AM.